Welcome back to another interview on the What is Truth channel. Today I had the opportunity to sit down with an amazing guy, a great friend of mine, a mentor, a pastor here in the Lincoln, Nebraska Union College area, and that would be Buell Fogg. Anyone in this general vicinity, or really anyone who has a lot of connections in the Adventist world, probably knows Buell Fogg. Anywhere I travel with him, somebody knows Buell Fogg, and he is a great guy, has so much wisdom, so humble, and it was just a great opportunity to sit down with him in his office and talk about some of his time in Vietnam and his ministry as a chaplain, as a Bible teacher, and I just really hope you enjoy this interview with Buell Fogg. I am sitting here with Buell Fogg, who is the Associate Chaplain at Union College. And how long have you been here, Buell?
This is starting year number 34.
34. I almost said 33. I would have actually been wrong.
I finished 33.
You finished 33.
Starting 34.
So what were you doing before you were Associate Chaplain here?
Before that time, I was associate to the president, assistant to the president. And before that, I was working up in enrollment as associate vice president, and then I was VP for a while, and that wasn't my gig. I loved recruiting and I loved all that stuff, but administration is not really my really go-to thing. I don't mind it. I can do it if I have to, but this is what I enjoy doing, the day-to-day, mentoring students, hanging out with kids, planning religious programs, getting involved in traveling around to the churches and things like that. So, yeah.
The great thing is we're here in your office in the administration building here, and right out that door, if it wasn't closed, you always get to see everybody walk by. And
I
you
love
always
it. That's a highlight of my day to see these kids coming and going.
And then you also mentioned traveling around, because we do a thing here at Union, the U Crew. You want to tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah, it's something that we've been doing for a long, long time. The pandemic kind of killed us a little bit in that we were not able to get out to the churches because everybody was scared to death of mingling together. But it's a ministry that is designed to take students to the churches here in Mid-America and to do ministry, to do a Sabbath school program, church service, hang out with the kids, take them out to pizza on Saturday night, do whatever. Friday night, we love doing Friday nights too, because that just kind of makes the whole weekend very cohesive. So that's pretty much it. And the opportunity of getting together with these very talented young adults like Payton and others, it's a real privilege for me to be able to watch this happen and to kind of pull it together and watch them and get excited about what they're doing, and to see the church members get excited about what they're doing as well. So. Yeah, update people on what's going on at Union College, because a lot of our churches don't really hear as much, and they go, wow, we didn't know that. That's so cool. And we have a lot of updates to give because there's a lot happening here at Union College.
Yeah, and it's always a lot of fun when we travel together, because we'll drive like 6 to 8 hours sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of spurred the idea for this conversation, because you have so many stories. And the thing is, Buell, you're not only a veteran in the ministry, but you're also a veteran.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have lots of stories from being in Vietnam.
Yeah. I've been really pleased through the years to be able to share the spiritual aspects of my journey in the military, and being a military brat, brought up in the military, has also been a real blessing as well. And it's probably made me into the person that I am, because when you're in the military and you're a kid and your dad's in service, you're moving about every 2 or 3 years, because there's always a need at some base for my dad's occupation. And so, yeah, the military is not a place where you just sit in one spot and get to know people and spend a lifetime there. It's you're hopping around. And so all of us military kids were in the same boat. And so when we got together and we went to school, like in Europe, when I was in Europe for 2.5 years, we would go to American schools that they had brought forth American teachers over to Europe to teach us. All of us kids we're kind of in the same category. We've all been different places, and it was always fun to share about that. And just getting to know people, having to reach out and make friends and be friends and things like that was it was a real pleasure, and I think it's formed me into the person I am today. I don't meet any strangers. I don't meet any strangers. I'm very outgoing. I'm a sanguine. I can't help it. You know, my number one strength finder is woo, which means I'm out there. I'm trying to relate to people and convince them of my opinion or my philosophy or whatever. So, yeah, I love people. I think the greatest thing in the world is what God has done in making us all so different, and so we can celebrate all those differences. It's really cool. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing I've noticed traveling with you from time to time is how no matter where we go, no matter what state we're in, no matter what community we're in, somebody knows Buell Fogg.
Yeah, we're often in the state of confusion, right?
Yes. I was going to see if maybe you have a favorite story from your time in Vietnam, and because I know you use these stories as well in sermons bring a point out.
You know, there are so many things that you could pinpoint. One of the things that I really remember about Vietnam is the opportunity that I took on Sabbath to be able to go to what we call the Chapel by the Sea. I was in Chu Lai, and we were right on the coastline of the South China Sea. And that chapel overlooked that sea. There was a cross, an open air cross, by the way, because there was very little air conditioning in Vietnam. There was some, but not a whole lot, and so the building was kind of open air as well. But so much fun to look out through that open air cross and see the beautiful ocean. And of course, whenever we'd meet from Sabbath to Sabbath, the sun's sparkling off of that ocean. Oh, I can sit here and vividly remember the feel, the smell, and it would be like 9 of us. There were roughly 8 or 9 that would get together every Sabbath, and our worship service was listening to a tape that one of the guys had been sent from home and to a sermon, and we'd get together and study the Sabbath school lesson, and we'd listen to that tape for church. And once upon a time, we had one of the civilian chaplains who was part of ADRA over there that came and shared with us, and that was kind of cool too. But man, so much fun to sit there. We didn't sing because it's 9 guys. 9 guys. we were not a great male chorus, let's put it that way. But just the fellowship from Sabbath to Sabbath of being able to enjoy that beautiful venue and just to feel the Spirit of God moving in our lives and go back to duty and wait till the next Sabbath is ready to roll and just the day-to-day routine and all the things that you experienced, like the rocket shelling from the Viet Cong, whenever they would get excited about rattling our cages. Right behind our medical compound was a helicopter squadron, gunships, Hueys, medevacs, and so they would try to take out those gunships because those things were amazing in being able to shoot the way they did. Some of them were mounted with miniguns, and when they fired those things, it would cover every square inch of a football field just in a spurt like that. And of course, the rockets that they shot out. It was our go-to vehicle in Vietnam. Mobile cav, air cav. You could watch combat assaults taking off from there. Guys loaded on, ready to go out to the field, and we were right there on the perimeter. And we had the big guard tower. It was just right just 50 feet from my hooch, and they were equipped with a 50 caliber machine gun. So yeah, it was quite the thing. So yeah.
I think something that Vietnam, the war, teaches us a lot about human nature and God and how we relate to each other. What do you feel you learned about both human nature and God being over there?
One of the things that stands out in my mind is before I went over there, I was a theology major. College, I had to drop out because of finances, and I got drafted and got sent to Vietnam. And it was experiences that I had there that brought me back to wanting to do youth ministry. And so One of the things I discovered about human nature over there is that there is a lot of hatred on this planet, man. And they didn't care who you were, what your background was. If you were wearing an American uniform, they wanted to kill you. And I discovered the same thing about our side too. You know, we're not a nation of choir boys, okay? Let's face it.
Yeah.
If they were Viet Cong and they were shooting at us, no questions asked, you shot back. And some of the things that we did while we were there were horrendous, without excuse. And the pure simple thing is, you know, like the My Lai massacre, that happened in my area. That was in the AmeriCal division. That's the division I was in, and that is a pure lack of military discipline. But you can let your emotions get so carried away instead of going on principle. And hey, I'm here as an American soldier. I'm here to represent my country. You let all that go and all the discipline goes, and then you just let the forces take over. And marijuana was a very popular drug too during that time.
Yeah.
It was readily available. Anybody could have gotten it. And unfortunately, they didn't sit on it like I thought they should have. But it was just really hard to control, really hard to control. And guys would get high in the field, and they get high back at home base. And, you know, walk into the shower, sometimes you could just kind of smell that sweet aroma, sweet savor.
Yeah.
But you see the absolute despicable, ugly side of life in war. There's nothing pretty about it.
Yeah.
Nothing pretty about it. The only pretty thing that I could say is that I made a lot of friends, was able to touch a lot of guys' lives, and hopefully in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, for example, sitting in the mess hall, bowing my head for a prayer to be thankful, and guys would look at me, and whenever I'd raise my head from saying amen, there'd be guys sitting there going, wow, that's really cool, man. And so they knew that was me, okay? And so I wasn't gonna hold any punches. They knew I didn't drink, okay? I didn't make it a big issue. I just didn't do it. I didn't do the marijuana. I didn't run around with the prostitutes. That just wasn't my lifestyle, and they knew that. But just by my example, that was sermon enough for them. I didn't preach at them.
Right.
You know, I would often tease them before they went to R&R, and I'd say, hey, Cobb, stay away from the houses of ill repute, and they would just laugh and go, okay, Fogg, whatever, and then they would leave. And but they knew that as a Christian and as one who really loved Jesus and wanted their best, they could sense that, and they really respected that. They didn't make fun of me at all.
Yeah.
One guy, after I finished prayer, he said, hey, could you put a carbon copy in that for me? They knew because you're in a country where you really don't know from one day to the next if you're going to be alive. I mean, because some errant rocket can come in, you just have no idea. They could break through the concertina wire there with some kind of force and throw satchel charges around and AK-47. You didn't know. So there were times when I went to bed a little nervous. There really were. I can remember when I first got there, I thought, man, I could hear the bombs in the distance, and the 105s going off, and the ground would just rattle, from all the boom and boom, 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 and you could just hear the boom, 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 way out in the mountains there. And there's some nights when I laid awake almost all night, and after experiencing that for a few weeks, in the book of Psalms, David said, "I will both lay me down in peace and safety because you care for me."
Yeah.
I'm like, Buell, there you go, buddy. And I prayed that, claimed that promise. I said, whatever happens to me, if I die tonight from some errant rocket, okay, God still got me.
Yeah.
Still got me. I know what's beyond, and that made a big difference. And all of a sudden, man, I started sleeping. In fact, toward the end of my tour there was a huge not overrun, but just a big, crazy rocket and cannon. I mean, you name it, at a little place called LZ Fat City. It's a landing zone just over the bay from us. And next morning I got up, went to breakfast, and the guy says, "Man, did you hear last night? They just almost annihilated LZ Fat City." And I said, dude, I didn't hear a thing. I didn't. It was just totally zoned out. So you get to the point where you start, maybe this is not good, but getting a little comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, no, God has me. It doesn't matter where I am. He can protect me here as much as he can protect me back home. It's the same God, the same care, the same nurture, different place, but still the same God. So, yeah, it taught me a lot about human nature. People need love. People need understanding. You find all kind of guys in the military. One of our cooks was a Quaker. So, their philosophy is a little different than ours. Ideology, theology, all that good stuff. And guys from all over. Our mess sergeant was a guy from Mississippi. And is an amazing mess sergeant. Great guy. Found out I was an Adventist. I didn't go and say, hey guys, I'm an Adventist.
Yeah.
Found out I was an Adventist, and if he had pork that he was serving in the mess hall, I went in for chow, he'd say, oh, Fogg, I'm so sorry. Man, what do you want? I'll go back and make you anything. I make you a hamburger, grilled cheese, you whatever you want. I said, no, you have to do that. There's plenty of other stuff here to eat. No. He felt so bad that I didn't eat pork, okay? It's not a moral issue, okay? It's just one of those things where you prefer not to. And he was just wanting to meet my needs. And I thought, man, what a great... You find a lot of guys who are givers. They really are. That's why a lot of them are in the military, is because they want to serve. And these were good, upstanding, what I call homeboys, that really didn't want to be there to make the situation worse. They wanted to serve. They wanted to do what they could to enhance the reputation of the United States and that kind of thing. You always find a couple of guys that are shysters and a couple of barracks thieves, but that was rare because, man, we were in this thing together. When you're 8,000 miles away from home, you really become a cohesive unit. And you don't steal from somebody, not because it's wrong, but because, hey, that's my boy. I'm looking out for him, and he's looking out for me. And so I don't recall in Vietnam any theft at all from other guys. Just a lot of respect, and just we're a team. Yeah, and I miss that a lot in some settings. I really do. We were from all different ideologies, but together there we were a team, different beliefs, but we were together in our mission. And sometimes I think we're not really getting that in the church as I would like to see it. But anyway, did that answer your question?
Yeah. One of the questions,
I can go a lot of different directions with that.
Something that popped into my mind was, did the Quaker guy make good oatmeal?
He did.
Okay,
he did.
good.
Yeah. He made good oatmeal, but his specialty was eggs.
Okay. Another thing that's interesting is that I've known a lot of people in the ministry, a lot of pastors, and I don't know if I've ever heard a single person refer to you as Pastor Buell. You're just always Buell. Has any of that influenced why you just go by Buell?
It's funny because when I taught in academy, it was always Brother Fogg.
Brother Fogg.
I loved that whole concept of brotherhood. So much so that I told my kids, I said, I don't want you to call me Mister. I don't want you to call me Pastor. I want to be considered your brother. Okay. Because in Brother Fogg, then that means we are a priesthood of believers.
Yeah.
We're brothers together. Yeah. So and when I came to Union, it was just right from day one. The kids all called me Buell. They called me by my first name. They said, what do you want to be called? I said, well, Jesus knows me as Buell, and that's fine. I don't get hung up on titles,
right.
Okay? Everybody's first name to me.
Yeah.
Everybody's first name to me. Because we're in this thing together. It's not like you're higher than I am because you were a doctorate or you have your master's degree or whatever the case is. I got a couple of master's degrees, okay? and I'm okay with that. But it's the brotherhood, man.
Yeah.
So I'm really comfortable with it. And when I go to weeks of prayer and things like that, kids always want, what do we call you? I said, Buell's fine. Well, some of the teachers said, no, just call him Pastor Buell. So it's Pastor Buell. And I get it, when you're teaching high school and you got to have a little difference there between authority figures. But it's really funny because I always found out that the kids called you by your last name. Like, hey, Fogg, or hey, Kabanji, or something like that.
Yeah.
So why not? So I feel very comfortable with a first name basis with anybody. Totally at ease with it.
We could all use a little bit of that. It humbles us in such a way because we get really hung up on titles, don't we? Well, I got more doctorates than you, so now you got to call me. And instead of just realizing we're all on the same.
boat. And I respect those degrees.
Yeah.
People worked hard for those. I don't begrudge them that at all, but it doesn't mean that in the bigger scheme of life that what you have in your calling is more important than mine. Mine isn't more important than yours, but we are called together for what? The edification of the saints.
Yeah.
To build the church up. And so if that's the case, then I think that puts us all on equal ground.
Yeah.
Equal footing. And if I start thinking of myself as better than somebody else, I got some spiritual issues.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen. It's like, man,
yeah,
it's just me.
Oh, what is that phrase? I think there's phrases like the ground is level at the foot of the cross. And there's no hierarchy there.
No, there isn't.
God's church.
There isn't. And he talks about spiritual gifts. Paul does. And does the eye, just because it's not a nose, say I'm not going to be an eye? I mean, no. One person, one member of the body affects everything else. So even if you stub the big toe, man, that's affecting the ears. Because it just does. That's where it's hurting. So all the attention goes to where it's hurting, right?
Yeah.
And I wish we would do that more in the church. And I'm not trying to nitpick, but sometimes we kick our own when we're down, and it's that old song, man. This goes back a lot of years to Steve Green when he sang, "Don't let a wounded soldier die." Man, and that's one thing I learned in the military too. You don't forsake your own. You do whatever it takes to leave no one behind. And that's so true in the church too.
Yeah.
If there's a member that's struggling, somebody has an issue, they don't need somebody pointing their finger, their finger in their face. They need somebody who's going to pick them up, bring them a blanket, shower them with love, and give them the strength that they need and the nurture they need to bring them through. Now, I've learned that throughout life, and there's so many people with so many problems that are there's just hurting units, pure and simple, and my heart goes out to them, and I want to be somebody who's known as a person who lends that kind of support, who gives that kind of help, who's going to look at an individual and say, "Dude, how are you? No, seriously, how are you? I'm here for you." Because we're not here for each other. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. said it so well. He said, if we don't learn to live together as brothers, we'll all perish together as fools. And there's a lot of perishing going on today, and there's a lot of fools walking around this planet because they have not learned that lesson. Living together as brothers. And who calls us? Jesus calls us into that brotherhood. Priesthood of believers. I go right back to that all the time. Priesthood of believers. You minister, I minister. Whoever's in the church is effectively a minister. You are. You're ministering grace, or you're ministering judgment, or whatever the case is. You are ministering to people.
Yeah. I guess as we begin to close out here, if you had to give a message to, I'll say young people, you can take that what you may, whether that's high school students or to young adults here at Union. What would your message of encouragement or whatever advice you would give to them be?
Oh man. One thing that I would do is say, stop right where you are right now, and search your heart, and if need be, if the Holy Spirit is convicting you, get on your knees somewhere alone and give it all, give it all to Him. Surrender yourself to Him, and let Him use you. Now, when I say surrender, I mean you are giving up. You're turning over all your weapons. You don't have any more excuses. You don't have any weapons. But you are saying, God, I am your prisoner, because in a very real sense we're His, and we become His servants. And this is a beautiful thing, Payton. He says, I don't call you servants, I call you friends. So you're becoming in friendship with Him. And there's a lot that He wants for you. And that would be my counsel to kids today. Hey, it is not too late for you to surrender to Jesus, let him come in and take complete control, and then he will show you as you grow daily how to renew yourself, how to keep yourself humble, as Paul talked about dying daily. He will show you how to do that. You know, the Christian life is not an act of magic. It's a daily growth. And I would tell kids, hey, you're not perfect right now. You're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. And I got the chronological gift, man. I'm way older than you guys are. But I'm still growing, still learning, still humbling, still surrendering, that kind of thing. So I would want kids to make sure, above all else, that you make that surrender and let God come in and do his work in your life. You'll never regret it. You never regret it. You may live 80, 90, 100 years on this planet, but that is nothing compared to the eons of time that is beyond here. And boy, talk about a life that is filled with happiness and goodness as only God can give. You can't find it anywhere else. You know, people have tried, they can't do it. You can't do it. I've lived long enough to see people do exactly what Solomon said not to do. But the one thing he did say, he says, however years a man lives, let him enjoy them all. But remember that this is all vanity too, because it's going to pass. It's going to pass. But make the most of the time you have right now. And God will do some amazing things in your life that you never thought possible. But make that surrender.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Well, speaking of young people, a lot of them have a very short attention span these days, so we're going to...
Not just the young people.
That's true. We all have a bit of a short attention span these days, so we'll end it off there. But thank you so much, Buell, for the conversation.
Yeah.
I hope you are blessed by that, and you can check out the other videos like this I got on this channel. And thank you for joining me.
Yeah, Payton, thank you, buddy.
Yep. God bless.
Yeah.